Vice Chair Brown, it is 5:30 and you have a quorum if you'd like to proceed with the meeting. We are now live streaming.
Great. Are you able to share the screen with the agenda for me?
Absolutely.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the monthly meeting of the Commission on Equity. I'm Chair Cliff Brown, and I'll be facilitating the meeting this afternoon. So we have the agenda that's displayed on the screen, and we will move forward through those agenda items. And so the first thing we want to do is approve the minutes of our previous meetings. And the first, I'm sorry, we need to approve the agenda for today's meeting. So the agenda is there before you. We'll take a quick review of it. And I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda for today.
I move to accept today's agenda as is.
Okay.
Commissioner Hart.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any unreadiness, any discussion?
Shannon has a question.
Commissioner Chair Brown, Vice Chair Brown, I would just add that you could actually approve the entire consent agenda all at once. So that would be approval of the agenda, the meeting minutes from October 18th, October 25th, and November 15th in one motion.
Great. So will you amend your motion to reflect that? Who made the motion?
Ooh, I made the motion, but I don't know how to even word all that. I move to approve everything encompassed from the minutes and the agenda.
Okay. And then we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that too.
Thank you. Any discussion? Any unreadiness? If not, then those in favor of approving the consent agenda say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Shannon, for some reason I've lost, Kelly, Shannon, I've lost the agenda on my screen. There we go. Okay, so the next item we want to address is on the agenda is the public comment period. If you are attending, if you please raise your hand, and we will identify you and allow you time to make a comment, address the commission. And for those who are on the phone, if you would press *9, it will allow you to be recognized. So do we have anyone observing the meeting today that would like to be recognized to address the commission?
Vice Chair Brown, there are no hands raised.
Okay. All right, anyone dial in?
Vice Chair Brown, there is no callers on the line.
Okay, great. If you could go back to the agenda. Thank you. So with no public comments, then we'll take a pause and hear from Commissioner Hart, who will give us an inspirational item for today.
And because I am driving, I won't be able to read my inspirational. I do have it available, and I'm on my way home. I should be there in about 3. So we can, I can add, we can table that to the end, and then I can read it towards the end when I'm on my computer, which I should hear soon.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner Hart. And great. So Kelly, if you could flip back to the agenda for the next item. Shannon. Great. So we'll move into our business items for tonight. And the first item of business for tonight is the November Community Engagement Session Review. These sessions were held on Monday, the 15th, and on Saturday, the 20th. And Shannon will take some time and review those engagement sessions with us. Shannon?
Great. Thank you, Vice Chair Brown. Can you see me? Is my camera working for you all?
We can see you, but there's no movement. So.
All right.
Oh, now you're moving.
Oh, there you go.
I'm back. Okay, I disappeared on my end, so I appreciate knowing that. Well, first and foremost, I just want to say good evening to the commission. I realize I believe this is our fourth meeting in the last month, so thank you all for being here tonight and for the opportunity for us to talk about our November community engagement sessions, which is one of the reasons why we met so frequently over the last month, was to set up the sessions and then to actually host the sessions. So the purpose of tonight's agenda item is really just to check in on the community engagement sessions and to get some feedback from the commission on the events themselves. What were some of the major takeaways for you all? What were some things to consider and incorporate into future community engagement and other types of outreach events? So what I have put together in your packets for tonight is just a brief review of some of the sentiments that were brought up during the commission's engagement sessions, and that is attachment 1. I sent out an addendum to attachment 1 earlier today, which provides a update to include our engagement session sentiments and feedback that were brought up at Saturday's community engagement session. So just a little bit about how I've categorized that information on that memo is very broadly. It is not intended to be, verbatim what was spoken. If anybody is interested in hearing what was spoken, you can actually go back and watch the video of both community engagement sessions on the city's YouTube channel. So they are very, very broad statements, just high-level highlights, and they're categorized into a couple of broad categories. And those categories are 1, partnerships, 2, accessibility, 3, outreach, 4, inclusivity, and then 5, evaluation and benchmarks. In addition, you'll find in the attachment 1, as well as the addendum, the alternative survey results that we have collected thus far as of today at 11 a.m. You can see that there are 19 entries of individuals in the community that have provided feedback using that means. So again, this is really just to provide a opportunity to have some conversation and debrief on those engagement efforts. Certainly a lot of the items that we heard about will be incorporated into, future, not just engagement sessions, but outreach in general. But I guess I would like to open this up to the commission to hear back from you all on what were some of the major takeaways, what you're interested in learning to be incorporated or further investigated or integrated moving forward, or any other items that you all would like to talk about the community engagement sessions. And with that, I will open it up for you all to provide some questions, comments, and feedback.
Just a comment about our participation. It was a little disappointing, but we're just the beginning. And I did go on the YouTube video to review some of the things that maybe I didn't hear or just wanted to hear. And of today, there have been 83 views. So that means we're getting out to more than people that we saw online.
Yes, I think the sessions were very successful. This was our first crack at it to see how things would unfold and how many participants. But I think it was overwhelmingly successful. We had great participation and some great ideas and some sharing from community members. I thought it was very successful. Any other commissioners?
For me, I think one of my biggest takeaways that I thought was something great that we could implement soon to immediately is adding a telephonic point of contact to some of the print advertisements. One of the participants last Monday mentioned that the blurbs that are typed out aren't very comprehensive, and recommended as a suggestion for an alternative as either including more information or perhaps a phone number that they could dial into to get more information rather than always getting pushed to a website. I thought that was a really great piece of advice that we could implement, like I said, soon to immediately with little or no logistical stuff bearing down on that. Is something that we could definitely do without much legwork on our part. And that would help us be more effective in reaching out to those that may be interested.
And also, we did have a suggestion that we reach further into the community, reach out to other organizations, clubs, and organizations to communicate with them and invite them to attend those sessions and or these meetings, these monthly meetings.
I also liked how somebody had it mentioned also reaching out to surrounding counties, because you may have people who may not live in this area, but they work in this area. And so, or you may have people who, like I said, live outside of this area that might bring in some ideas into this area on what we could do to reach out and maybe even give ideas and suggestions. I think somebody made a suggestion like that at the very first meeting on the 15th. And also using like the marquees in the area as well to advertise.
I think one important thing that I got out of it is that what we have talked about doing focus groups, and we may have through this process identified maybe some cultural leaders, community leaders, that should be our next foray into when we get ready to get more information and start more dialogue, is to do it in a real targeted small group ways. I think that would help us. We have a lot of information to go with now in the process of our strategic plan and mission and vision, but we will definitely need to go out again, probably fairly soon, to small groups within our different communities.
To kind of add to, sorry.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Go ahead, Jen.
I was just to add what Commissioner Clay was saying. I also heard getting away from the, I guess, what could be an imposing atmosphere at City Hall. I realized logistically and technologically it was a great venue, especially for our first time go. Some of the suggestions that I heard were schools or churches. The community center was an option that we mentioned as well, and I think that's a great idea. I imagine that the school district might be a great one just because of the availability of venue. And it really sounds like there's a lot of buy-in for what work we're doing here from some of the leadership that attended our first meeting. I think that might be one of our better avenues, because schools are a rather neutral place that are also significantly less intimidating, perhaps, than City Hall, but are also located within the community, whereas the community center, there's only one, for example, and churches could be cause hesitation in some that might want to attend for other reasons, that we may not want to, I guess, be affiliated with some kind of like us endorsing it just because we're holding it there. Another option that I heard was firehouses. I know that my HOA, for example, has used the one right there on Pacific for many meetings before. And I don't know what that availability is like, but perhaps that's another option where it's kind of a, I guess, like a neutral venue to hold us at that might be less intimidating and presumably easier for those to access within the community that want to attend.
Mhm.
And two, in the Monday session, we had speakers that had different points of view. It just showed that we are not a commission that everyone's on the same accord, everyone has the same philosophy. We had those who had different opinions about the commission and the things we're doing and how we're viewing things. So we had some opposition and some disagreement with exactly what we're trying to do here. So we welcome, the insight from everyone, regardless of their philosophies or their thoughts. We're open to hearing both sides, all sides, actually. Mm-hmm.
Mhm. I heard from our viewers that it's important that when we get a mission statement, that we put that out, that we continue to explain what we're doing and what our progress is, and what our next steps are, and in addition to how we collect ongoing comments. So that's important.
And we have participants that are interested in our mission statement and what's going to all be included in that statement to make sure that it is, comprehensive statement. And we did share that we are, working on that, and that is forthcoming.
Mm-hmm.
Just a quick comment. I don't know if any of the other commissioners have had a chance to look at the addendum that Shannon included earlier today. But a lot of our online feedback, we definitely received several more negative opinions on the work that we're trying to accomplish here. And so I think that as our assistant chair mentioned, we're trying to bring everybody on board with us. And what I was reading is that the acknowledgement that disparities exist isn't a fact that we can all agree on. So I think that if a part of our mission is to bring these folks with us, then we may need to focus some of our energy into getting buy-in from community members that might disagree on the surface with what we're trying to accomplish.
Great point.
Mm-hmm. It just emphasizes for me the need to have these critical conversations, that it just we need to be talking out in the open about issues. Some people don't see any overt racism, and some people live with it every day. So we need to share our lived experiences so that we can work together more effectively.
Exactly, because, when I actually signed up to do this, I was not 100% even thinking racism, because growing up in Alaska, we were a bowl of soup. I didn't see Native American and Eskimo and black and white. Yes, I saw the skin tone. It didn't really affect me much until I went to visit certain states. But, you get married. Like I told them, I married somebody outside of my race. I have biracial children. I have a child that is a part of the LGBTQ plus community, and I have a child that's disabled. And so when I saw Commission on Equity, I didn't see race. Yet the part of it, the part I hadn't experienced as much, but I saw it more as equitable, but for all, not just for a race. And so if you are in that, whatever your ideal of perfect family is, 2.5 children, college educated, this, that, and the other, you may not see that if you don't have a child that has a disability or a child that is struggling with their sexual identity. So, yeah, equality is more than just race. And I think that they have to stop and think about that. And that has a lot to do with compassion, which is what I stressed on Monday.
Yeah, I think going with what John was saying about bringing, people who might not agree with what we're doing or don't necessarily see a need for it. I think that getting like groups of people, a handful of groups of people in a room to talk about their experiences and how they feel is important, but also I think, and I don't know how much we're going to see of this or how much we're going to use, but there is, data out there nationally about how different groups are not doing as well as other groups. It's very targeted and it's very specific, and there is actual numbers and data out there about that. And I think sometimes that translates better with people who don't necessarily give as much value to people's feelings and how they feel and their experiences, because those are important and those are important to us. But to people who don't think it's important, if you hit them with numbers, like, you can't ignore that.
Agreed.
And stories, and real stories of our local experiences. Yeah, it feels like in a lot of ways that we got to bring things down from intellectual down to heart, and because we're all in this community, and to really actually know some of what's going on in other people's lives, I think is really important.
Others? Yes.
Shannon has her hand up.
Well, if there's no other comments, I just wanted to reiterate, this was a first start, and we are going to have plenty of opportunities for engagement, and that's going to look, different moving forward. There might be, future community engagement sessions. There will certainly be focus groups and other kind of creative opportunities to get individuals from the community together to have conversations with the Commission on Equity. Also looking forward, tonight we postponed our strategic planning workshop, but we will be having a strategic planning workshop, for the next couple of sessions, and taking the information that was heard tonight and that we will continue to hear as part of this process and integrating that into the strategic planning document, as well as into the 2022 work plan, which is our third item on tonight's agenda. You'll notice that some of the items that we've just discussed tonight, and then also discussed on the two community engagement sessions, are starting to be incorporated into that work plan. But I certainly want to have a conversation on, what that looks like here moving forward. But as far as this item, I appreciate the comments and the feedback. And certainly if there are other thoughts or ideas that you have as you continue to think about the community engagement sessions that we hosted, please feel free to forward them to me.
Thank you, Shannon. Any other comments?
I had one. I was moved by the story of the military family who saw the sculpture and felt welcome. And I know this art seems to can be some good statements about the philosophy and the welcome, how welcoming our community is. And I love murals in towns. The Ole has quite a few, statues, those sort of things. That might be something that we look further into.
Commissioner Clay, I'm glad you brought that up. So we, as a city, just updated our public art policies. And actually, Ms. Adams, who we're going to bring in here for the presentation in just a second, was instrumental in driving that process. And that identifies, the broad categories in which, we want public arts to be reflected in the community. In addition to that, we will also be reviewing a proposed 6-year public art plan at the next city council meeting at the very end to review that and approve it. So certainly there will be future opportunities to be involved in public art.
That's wonderful.
That's great to hear. My takeaway from that story that I was also thought was really moving about the family seeing the military statue was that representation matters, and I think that we should consider that when trying to make Lacey feel like a more inclusive and equitable place for families to live, and considering other options along those lines, because that does send a message to those that are looking and that are around that they're welcome here.
That's great. Well, good. Then we'll move to the next agenda item. Shannon, can you show that again? Thank you. So the next item is Indigenous acknowledgements and future collaboration. And Kelly Adams, a management analyst with the city, will lead that discussion.
Wonderful. Good evening, commissioners. Good evening, Assistant City Manager. I am excited that you are talking about public art. That is a passion, and I can't wait to talk about that more. I am going to share my screen. Okay. So a few meetings ago, it was requested by this commission to discuss, did I hear a cuckoo clock?
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's my cuckoo clock.
I'm right on time. So it was requested to look into tribal acknowledgements and future opportunities for collaboration. And this presentation, the staff report that's in your packet with the documents, this is intended to give you a framework to move forward on meaningful actions and opportunities with our the indigenous people in our community. We know that the city of Lacey and its urban growth area exist on the traditional territories of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Nisqually and the Squaxin Island peoples. And so what I want to show you is not drafts of a land acknowledgement, but the documents and framework that we can use to bring more voices to this process to ensure that it is meaningful. So the Nisqually Indian Tribe and the City of Lacey City Council signed a historic document in March of 2014, and that was our accord. Our accord and the gift of the totem from the Nisqually people are in our lobby. So these are the first items that you see when you walk into Lacey City Hall. And what this accord does is it formalizes our framework moving forward so that we are intentionally meeting and that we have opportunities to do some collaborative goal setting and identifying actions that are necessary to address and resolve our common concerns. And so as we move forward with our acknowledgements and in our outreach, it's really important to look to this accord as a foundational document. I wanted to share with you some photos of some of our fresh-faced council members. So here we have Mayor Andy Ryder and former Nisqually Tribal Chair Cynthia Ayal. And it's very Deputy Mayor Pratt, this will be her last year on City Council. So I thought it was neat to show some photos before she steps down. So 1 year later, the totem was officially installed at Lacey City Hall. There was a rededication ceremony with staff, community members, and tribal representatives to feed the totem and to honor its place, its new home. In November, in this month, the Lacey City Council proclaimed November as Native American Heritage Month and worked with the Nisqually tribe to edit and ensure that this document had consent and had a collaborative element. We wanted to ensure that we were sharing a history that we all have perspective in. And if you look in this document, it is a land acknowledgement in and of itself, really. You see the seeds of it here. And so we want to make sure that anything we write moving forward, we do in collaboration with the tribes.
Mm-hmm.
So our first recommendation is to ensure that every November here on out, we acknowledge, we have the City Council create a proclamation with the tribes to proclaim November as Native American Heritage Month. And we want to make sure that we're revisiting this language every year so that we're not just looking at history with clear eyes, but that we are also celebrating and honoring Indigenous people in our community now. Recommendation 2 is that we invite tribal representatives to come and speak with the Commission on Equity, to come to a joint meeting. And in this way, we can actually talk in a more robust way about what opportunities, including a land acknowledgement, but beyond that, talking about public art, talking about other events, how can we more holistically celebrate our neighbors? And then the third recommendation is to coordinate an annual joint meeting between the Lacey City Council and the other tribal councils. Right now, our government to government relationship, we have several connections with the Nisqually people. We have very few connections with the government to government connections with the Squaxin Island people. So what we would like to do is to offer different joint meetings and joint conversations, but we want to respect the individuality of the two tribes. Those are two independent nations, and we want to make sure that we are, in our diplomacy and in our conversations, we are not conflating those two tribes into one single identity, because it's certainly not. And so that is our those are our three recommendations. You have a staff report that has copies of the proclamation and the accord. And I think that is everything that we have to go over. We do talk about land acknowledgements a bit and some of the best practices, which really boil down to including Indigenous people in the development of the acknowledgements.
Mm-hmm.
And I can take any questions. I'll stop sharing my screen.
So in making in creating this, do you have some tribal elders, leaders, names that we could contact? You know, do you have a good contact list then to help us work on this?
So Commissioner Clay, we will reach out to the tribes to organize the meeting. And, you know, should we move forward with the recommendations 2 and recommendations 3, you know, we'll reach out and organize the opportunity to have representatives available to meet with the Commission on Equity, should they choose to want to meet with the Commission on Equity. Right. And then also reach out to representatives to organize an annual meeting, government to government, as Ms. Adams was saying, with the City Council and the tribal councils.
So do you envision the joint meeting with the commission and tribal leaders who would like to, with the acknowledgement as one of the things we would talk about or try to create there in a joint meeting? Yeah. Okay.
That is correct, Commissioner Clay. We'd see if there was an interest on their part. As Ms. Adams mentioned, we want the full consent of the tribes prior to moving forward with the land acknowledgement.
Just as opposed to, you know, some commissioners meeting privately, but as a subcommittee, I guess.
So, so Commissioner, just to clarify the question, you were asking if they were going to meet the full Commission on Equity or a subcommittee. Is that what you were just asking there?
Yes, if you envision that the land acknowledgement question would be resolved in a joint meeting or in a subcommittee meeting, that subcommittee who meets with tribal members.
So Commissioner Clay, I would recommend inviting representatives to see if they were interested in participating in a meeting with the Commission on Equity as a whole. And, you know, bringing up the conversation of, you know, crafting a land acknowledgement or perhaps other ideas they might have, you know, to be acknowledged. And then moving forward, you know, depending on the direction of that conversation, perhaps setting up a smaller group to work on some of the elements.
Yeah, makes sense.
I think Kelly, it's a fantastic recommendation to seek their explicit permission before we just, I guess, assume that we're going to do a land acknowledgement and then just asking them for input. Those are two very important distinctions.
And in researching the topic, there's just as much, just like anything we do when we're communicating with the community and our neighbors, if we aren't intentional and we don't include those voices, it may have a very undesired effect.
Yeah.
And we may be telling a story that's not our intention.
This is Commissioner Brown. Kelly, are there examples of where we've worked with the Nisqually peoples in the past on say an emergency situation, say with flooding in Nisqually or some other issues that they may have, where they've reached out to us and we provide some resources, or vice versa? And is there anything that's, say, a standard practice between the two, the city and the tribe, when, you know, issues arise?
There's several contexts for the government to government relationships, and those are all unique to the context. So, for example, the Lacey Police Department, the Community and Economic Development Department, and the Lacey Museum. I know the Lacey Museum just had a history talk with a Nisqually historian to share more information, and that was very that was really educational, and it was also a lot of question and answer. And so we can definitely send you the link to that recording. It's just undergoing a little bit of editing for ease of watching right now. But depending on what the context is, that sort of defines. And as far as a standard, I can't speak to a standard or an operating procedure. It's two very different governments.
Okay, thank you.
So it sounds to me that there is a previously good-willed relationship between the city government and the tribal government that we can hopefully tap into independently as a commission from the city government. If I understand, I guess, kind of like the history and the background of what the city of Lacey has done previously. I know that you mentioned that the proclamation was made this November. Is there anything else that we can point to from the city that has been more recently than the 2015 totem installation and rededication, and then the proclamation that happened earlier this month? Or are those kind of the two items that stand out as prominence?
On behalf of the city council, those are the two items. And we're trying to be very cognizant here, especially with these recommendations, that we have a lot of government to government relationships in those different contexts that we spoke about. But also, this is a nation, and we are a municipality. And so we want to be, that's why there are 3 recommendations there. So at the city council level, to work directly with tribal leadership. And then at the Commission on Equity level, we can invite tribal leadership, but we also can have tribal representatives who, like perhaps a historian or someone with tribal council consent, can come and visit with us. But we're trying to be really cognizant about hierarchy and respecting their status as a nation.
So we're reading over that recommendation. I believe it's number 3. We're, I guess, explicitly asking for a delegation, I suppose, to joint meet with the Commission on Equity, rather than soliciting their government for this input directly, is what it sounds like, right? To make sure that we're respecting this hierarchy, like you mentioned. I just want to make sure I understand that part. Sorry.
So Commissioner Hedgewood, to go to the recommendations, that's actually recommendation number 2 would be for the commission to meet with representatives of the tribe as identified by the tribe. The 3rd recommendation is to help coordinate an annual joint meeting. So the city would coordinate this between tribal representatives and the Lacey City Council. And that's reflective of the accord that was signed in 2014. It references having an annual meeting once a year or more frequently if so desired by both of the parties.
Okay, then that hasn't been happening yet, but I guess the commission's role in that would be to recommend that to the city council as well. Okay.
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you for that piece. Yeah, no, I'm super on board, and I think it's definitely our place to carry this torch to the city council, because this is definitely 100% within our purview. So thank you for that, Kelly. I appreciate it. And Shannon, of course.
Great. Any other questions for Kelly? Any comments, additional comments? Okay, Shannon, did you have anything to close this out?
The only thing I would have to close this out is it sounds like the commission is approving of the recommendations that Kelly has brought forward. I just want to see if we can expressly provide a statement of support to move on with those recommendations.
Great. So should we put this in the form of a motion to accept the recommendations?
Commissioner Brown, it could be in form of a motion. It can be informal as well.
Okay, great. So based on consent, do we have agreement that we support these recommendations, these proposals? Is there any disagreement with it? We're all in agreement?
Yes.
Great. So we consent and we support the recommendations. Great. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Kelly.
All right, then we'll close this out. And Shannon, the next agenda item is great. The 2022 work plan and budget discussion. Shannon, you're going to lead us in this discussion?
Absolutely. Commissioners, I realize, starting the commission in June, we had very early on 2 of our meetings that discussed the 2021 work plan. And now we are starting to discuss the 2022 work plan. So I realize that sounds like a lot of discussion on work plans. Typically, it's not like that. When you have a full year, you start off with your discussion on a work plan and don't pick it up again until the end of the year. So I'm going to just take a second and go forward here on my slides. So just generally to provide a background again for the commission as well as the audience that is watching, the work plan is something that outlines the goals and objectives of the year for an advisory body here at the City of Lacey. I've included a staff report in your packet, which provides an overview on work plans and also our discussion in 2021 briefly on work plans and items that the commission was looking to include as part of the 2021 work plan. And then some proposed items for the 2022 work plan. The purpose of tonight's meeting is just to have a discussion on some of the proposed items, and then also to bring up some items that the commission might be interested in adding to the 2022 work plan. So I'll just review what is in the staff report. That is number 1, to have a joint meeting with the Lacey City Council. And this would be to introduce the work plan and also to talk about ongoing Commission on Equity projects and efforts with the strategic plan and anything else that the commission and the City Council chooses to discuss. Typically, the Lacey City Council holds joint meetings with its advisory bodies to review the work plans and also just to go over progress and achievements from the past year. 2 would be to continue work on the strategic plan, and this would include integrating public outreach efforts. This was something I heard the commission wants to have continued to be integrated in this process. So what this looks like, this could be, community engagement efforts. This could be additional focus groups, online review opportunities, et cetera. But we certainly want to, once we have a draft strategic plan, to go out to the community and get some additional information. 3 would be to continue to work on, possibilities to recognize and work with and collaborate with our Indigenous tribes, as Ms. Adams just outlined. 4 would be to host focus groups. As we had in conversation earlier, this is certainly something that is identified as a way to meet with community members and, get two-way conversations and more input and interactions moving forward. I have a recommendation here for 2022 to plan for perhaps 4 to 6. Certainly, I think we could do a few more. I just wanted to start off, with a smaller amount and see how those focus groups go before, adding a lot more meetings. 5 would be to begin work on an equity tool and an equity map. So this would be a tool and mapping system that would help provide an equity lens to future city policy and program decisions. 6 would be to continue presentations from the city departments. We've so far had presentations from human resources. And so we would continue to bring on departments so that the commission can learn more about what's going on in those departments and what they do, and some of the efforts, especially in diversity, equity, and inclusion that they are taking on. So this would include bringing on our police departments, our community and economic development department, our parks, recreation, culture department, our public works department, and then also our public affairs department. Next would be, and not next, this isn't in any particular order. Let me just clarify that. This is more of just thinking about what 2022 could hold, would be to review the draft City of Lacey communications plan. So currently the City of Lacey is working on creating a comprehensive communications plan that will help guide internal as well as external efforts to enhance and increase communication. And so certainly having the Commission on Equity provide some perspective input is something that we'll want to do in 2022. Next would be working on a potential Juneteenth event collaboration and or considering other event collaborations. And just as an update, we have a meeting to meet with the Fred U. Harris Lodge and Jay Evans and representatives from that lodge to discuss, potential ways we might be able to collaborate, support, or partner with the ongoing Juneteenth celebration on December 1st. And Chair Jackson, Vice Chair Brown, and Commissioner Hart are all part of that meeting just to have an initial conversation. And we'll be coming back to this group and reporting out on that initial conversation. This also, there is opportunities, to look at other event collaborations, support, moving forward as well. And then also hosting additional community engagement sessions. The recommendation I just put up here right now is twice per year. We can certainly, have more or less of those, and take the information that we've learned in our previous community engagement sessions and incorporate them into the next versions of the community engagement sessions. So those are a few items that I've identified, and I just will stop my share and my presentation right now and just want to check in with the Commission on Equity and hear if there's any other items that the Commission would like to consider to be added to the 2022 work plan.
I think one thing might be, and we heard it at the engagement sessions, might be to explore a partnership with the North Thurston Public Schools, possibly the library system, those, see what partnerships we could work on. Kind of non-governmental.
It's a very comprehensive list. I can't think of any additional items right now.
So Commissioners, I will also be bringing this back up for further review at our next meeting. So certainly if you think of anything between now and then, feel free to bring it to that meeting, or also just send me an email or give me a phone call. And we can chat about getting that on the list.
Perhaps I missed it. Drafting our mission statement. Is that on the 2022 work plan also?
Correct, Commissioner Hedgewood. That's part of our strategic plan. There will be a mission statement.
It was okay
in there.
Perfect. Thank you.
That's the etc.
Yep. Yeah. Got it. Just wanted to make sure. Thanks.
Yeah. Very good. Anything else? Any other questions for Shannon or any comments? Okay, we're moving right along tonight.
So the last part of the third staff report is the proposed 2022 budget. So I'll share my screen with you all once again. So the Lacey City Council will consider adopting the full city 2022 budget on December 2nd. So just in a couple of weeks. And as part of the proposed 2022 budget, there are funds available to continue community Commission on Equity work and equity work in general. And so in the proposed 2022 budget, there is $25,000 for this work. And in addition to that, we have carryover funds. So these are funds that were unspent from the 2021 budget. And this is actually specifically for the strategic plan, was what these funds were set aside to do, that will continue on into 2022 for strategic planning purposes. So in total, the Commission on Equity and Equity Work will have $35,000 for the 2022 budget should it be passed. And that's all identified in Table A. So in Table B, I have provided a proposed 2022 Commission on Equity expenditures, which continues our strategic planning efforts, which were started in 2021. It provides funding for an equity tool and equity map creation. It also provides funding for advertisements and marketing. So this could be for events, community engagement sessions, and other items to help get the word out and increase outreach moving forward. Funds for translation services. We certainly have translated several documents into a couple of languages, and we want to continue to provide accessible information. And so this would be for those types of translation services, and also other translation services for events that are being put on by the city. For example, bringing in an interpreter, having an ASL signer, etc. There's also a set aside for events. I know the Commission on Equity is looking to get out into the community to hear from the community and see what's going on in the community. So there is some funding to provide support and collaboration for events that are out in the community currently, or perhaps that this commission would like to look into starting in 2022. And then there's just a pot of money for other items should they come up that were unanticipated in the 2022 budget. So with that, I will stop my share and just reiterate, this is a draft, and I would like to hear your feedback on the draft. No action is required on this. This would be more for me to monitor as we move forward in 2022.
Yeah, Shannon, I have a question. Does Lacey have like tents that are logoed? So if we were to participate, say in the Juneteenth, and we wanted to have a booth or something, do we have those things? We just, requisition to have them available, those types of things?
Commissioner Brown, I would imagine we do have city tents with city logos on that. And I say that I have to imagine, because I have very limited events so far with COVID and my time here with the city. But I can certainly look into that to confirm that we do have those types of tents available. This could also be something where, the commission, could, use some of the funds identified in events to create a Commission on Equity specific tent for the purposes of having outreach and engagement at events moving forward.
Yeah. Great. And are things like printing and all that comes out of our budget, or does the general budget for the city? It does. Okay.
Correct.
Like the flyers we had for our engagement sessions, that counts against our budget.
Correct. Any materials that are made on behalf of the Commission on Equity would be accounted for in that bucket.
Okay. Great.
Hey, Shannon, I kind of cut out for a minute, so I don't know if I missed anything, but I'm just curious what is included in the budget items for the strategic plan and the equity tool. I don't know if you said that, because those are, it looks like most of the budget are those two things. So what's included in that?
Right. So with the strategic planning efforts, that's, our consultant who is helping us go through the work sessions that we're currently in. And then also we'll be crafting a document, based on our workshops for this group to review, and then for the greater community to review and provide feedback, and then culminating eventually with the strategic plan that would be adopted by the Lacey City Council after it being recommended to move forward to the council by this body. The equity tool and map, these funds would be to help identify, what could be potential data sources that would be used for creating layers in the map, and then also reaching out potentially to a consultant to create the map based on those data sets, and then create a dashboard that would be accessible not only for the city of Lacey, but also externally for partners. And a great example of some tools that currently exist are the city of Tacoma If you Google City of Tacoma equity map, they have a very robust equity map. And I know there are certainly other Puget Sound jurisdictions that are in the process of creating their own equity maps.
So it's mostly consultants and like, I guess I'm asking what from us as the commission would we be doing to like be using up that, but I don't know if I'm asking that in a way that makes sense. Like that we would be doing that would be using up that budget, or is that mostly just consultant and staff time?
So great question, Commissioner Stolberg. And it's more of, I just wanted to be fully transparent and make you all aware of, what we have as a budget. And then also to get some feedback and input from you on, anything that you would potentially like to see added, or if you had questions about items like your questions, for example, on the strategic plan and on the equity tool and map. As far as, when and if the city should bring on a consultant, for example, for the equity tool and equity map, the Commission on Equity's role in this would actually be working with that consultant and reviewing, potential data points and how that map looks and functions.
Okay, so we get to be involved in that process.
Absolutely.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm just taking a look at the Pierce County, I believe they call it the equity index, but map is the same function. Yeah, this is very comprehensive, and I think that kind of what Commissioner Stolberg was mentioning earlier, that if we're having community engagement sessions, et cetera, that we're trying to reach those that may not want to hear our message, and we present items like this equity map that you're proposing. It's a great visual tool, I think. That it's hard to dispute. So if we have this tool going on, I agree in prioritizing a large sum of our funds into something like this, because it does forward the work we're trying to do. So thank you for I guess identifying that as a need. I wasn't even aware that this was a thing. So it seems, at least to me, very valuable as a tool that the Equity Commission can use going forward, and that's something that we should have in our pocket.
Commissioner Hedgewood, I would add to that too. It's a great tool for the city to use too, as it's evaluating, policies and programmings moving forward.
That's a great point.
In addition, it would be a great tool. The idea would be that it would be accessible to the public. So it'd also be a great tool for our community partners, such as other governmental entities, nonprofits, or even individuals to be able to access it and then, use for, their purposes. And an example of that would be, if a nonprofit perhaps was looking for grants, they'd be able to use this tool to supplement their grant application.
I like it. A question I did have also about the translation services. I'm not, admittedly, not 100% certain on what translation services go for these days. But given the feedback that I heard that was very salient at our engagement sessions about the need for being as accessible as possible, and I continually heard, translation services, different languages, etc. With the amount of material that I anticipate that we're going to be producing next year, it seems to me that perhaps it might be warranted for us to raise that line item budget a bit higher, as I think it might be warranted. I don't know what anybody else's thoughts on that might be, but it seems, I don't know if anybody else Shannon, if you have any input on what translation services roughly have run us in the past and what we might be able to anticipate going forward. To me, at least, it just seems that the $1,000 line item budget might be a bit low for what our goals would be.
Commissioner Hedgewood, I think you bring up a really good point. And I think, also looking at other fundings, you could use advertisement and marketing for translation services as well. So say, for example, you were creating a flyer for an event, you might be able to use it there. You might also be able to use event funding, and you could certainly use your other funding. So just because it's in one of the categories that I have shown you in table B, doesn't mean that if we needed more funding for translation services, we wouldn't have those funds available.
Sure, I understand. There's some overlap there that we could use.
Great. Other comments? Feedback?
This is kind of about the translation, but also about the engagement, is our 2 or 3 lines of Korean responses. And probably only one of the commissioners can read that. So in future, maybe you could have that in English as well as the language of choice.
So Commissioner Clay, we did send out those 2 entries on Friday to be translated by the translation service. And it's anticipated that they will provide a response with the translation tomorrow. So I will send that out to the commission as soon as I have it.
Great. Of course you thought that.
Yeah. Great. So Commissioner Hart, are you in a position to share an inspirational moment with us now?
I am. Thank you. I appreciate you guys for bearing with me there. And of course, the one that I was looking for, I cannot find. So I actually thought, I know. So I actually thought, since this week is the week of Thanksgiving, I found, and my favorite poet has always been Maya Angelou. So I found a couple of quotes. This one here on gratitude. Let gratitude be the pillow upon which you kneel to say your nightly prayer, and let faith be the bridge you build to overcome evil and welcome good. That was one. And then this one here. My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style. And that one, I think I'm going to snapshot and make that my background on my phone, because yeah, those right there are words to live by. And so, you know, with the holiday for friends and family, I also wanted to see if anybody within the commission have anything to be grateful for in the year 2021 and going forward. I'm grateful to have my health and to have my immediate family be able to come together this Thanksgivings. And so just wanted to see if anybody wanted to share anything.
Well, I'll share that, you know, I'm very thankful, you know, 2021. It was some good things and some not so good things that happened this year. The highlight was me being able to retire back in April, and I'm really excited and thankful that I was able to, you know, wrap up a great career. And then, of course, I've had some health challenges during the year that you know, ongoing. So that's a challenge, and I'm dealing with that, and thankful for my health at this time. And the other thing that probably the highlight of the year was my wife and I visiting my daughter and son-in-law and their 3 kids at Fort Bragg back in the summer, and just spending time with them and their little ones too, 7, 4, and 18 months. So that was a highlight of my year, spending time with them.
Awesome. Oh, that's amazing. Anyone else?
Well, we have a 6-year-old grandson that is just the light of my life, and the also this over the holiday I'll be able to visit my my son, who I don't get to see very often. So 2 gratitudes.
That's perfect.
Great. Anyone else?
Yeah, anybody else?
Great.
Yes, Miss Fong, Kelly Fong.
Well, commissioners, I will just say I am deeply appreciative of all of the work that you all have done, especially over the course of the last month. Like I said it earlier in the meeting, I know we've met 4 times in a span of 4 weeks. So I just really appreciate all of the efforts that you are doing on behalf of the city of Lacey and the greater Lacey community. I also, just as a point of gratitude, have recently moved down here to Lacey, and I am just really excited and glad to be part of this community moving forward.
So is Lacey a welcoming community? You've had to experience it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I in my personal life am try to be very positive, and given with all the stuff that we had with last year and COVID and how things could have gone, learning from what we went through last year and even in the year, just using it as a positive experience and using it as a way to pivot in my personal business and in my personal life. And even with the unrest, trying to use that experience to bring awareness as what we're doing in this group, and to, now that maybe some folks' eyes are being open to some things, now we just need for their hearts to be open and to see if we can pivot and bring some unity and togetherness. And as long as they're open to wanting to progress. And I think that that's really what it's all about, is progression. And it takes compassion and being able to see all sides of everything and being open to it. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I probably should share that my wife and I celebrated 40 years of marriage last month. So if I don't say that, I could get in trouble. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Been married all my life. Left kindergarten, got married, been married ever since.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Well, good. I think next is what, commissioner report. And I just would say that, gosh, this feels good. Things have gotten off to a good start. And when these meetings we've had in this past month, things are just coming clear. And I think what we're doing and plan to do is just going to be great for the community. And I think we have some great opportunities ahead, and I think we're going to really tackle them and tackle them well, and make the city council proud of the work we will be doing going forward. Yeah. Okay. Do we have any commissioner committee reports?
I just wanted to mention in my report, just an acknowledgement of Trans Awareness Day, which was a couple days ago, and the fact that we have lost 48 trans people, mostly Black and Latinx, in the United States this year, which is, we're not to the end of the year, and we're way ahead, too many of more than last year.
Okay.
Just honoring those souls.
Anyone else?
I mentioned at the community engagement session on Monday, the 15th, about a group that I am kind of helping out and doing some fundraising with my business called Our Arc. It's regarding Lacey Street Youth. And we had their Friendsgiving this past, oh gosh, was it Wednesday? Yeah, this past Wednesday. We had 3, maybe 4 individuals that came through. We had a ton of food, so we had provisions for that. So we ended up taking plates out to the people in the outreach area. So the kids were able to come, congregate, eat. We had them also pack up plates, and we took them out and around to people in the community, in the homeless encampment areas, just to kind of do a little reach out with all of the leftovers. They're also planning on doing something for a Christmas potlucky style as well. So my husband and I were able to do pulled pork and some macaroni and cheese. And next month, I'll get you guys the dates, but they're planning on doing it again. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly where. This time it was over at the area in between the Ebony and Ivory Coffee and Ricardo's. They've got like this big lobby area that you can rent. So I'll send a message out maybe on where they do it again. But yeah, it was a really good event, and it made me feel really nice and all of that. So yeah.
Right.
Will anyone be traveling this week for Thanksgiving?
I have to go to Montana to see my son.
Okay.
It's a nice drive.
Mm-hmm.
Montana's
Safe
beautiful. Nothing there, but it's beautiful.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and definitely between Idaho and Montana, that I don't know if you're going that route where it's like no stop. It's almost like a toll. There's like no shoulder or nothing on either side. It's just going straight forward. So definitely make sure you hit the facilities before you get in that area.
Right. Safe travels, and
Yes.
one is safe during the holiday season. Tomorrow I'll be working with my fraternity. We'll be giving away food baskets for Thanksgiving in Tacoma to some families that can use the assistance. So I'll be busy with that tomorrow. Great.
Oh, nice.
Anything else? Yeah. John, did you have something?
Oh no, I was just commenting. That's awesome of you guys. If you don't mind me asking, what is your fraternity?
Omega Psi Phi fraternity. Yes.
Okay.
I'm an Omega. Yeah. Great. Okay. Do we have anything else for tonight that we haven't covered? Yes, Shannon?
So I do have a director's report on a couple of items that I just really quickly would like to go over.
Yes.
So just again, I just wanted to announce that we are hosting that meeting, with the Fred U. Harris Lodge and Jay Evans, and we'll start that discussion, and commissioners will be reporting back out at a future meeting. Number two, I wanted to see if there were two volunteers in addition to Chair Jackson that might be available to meet with our Community Relations Committee. So these are members of the Lacey City Council. They're 3 members on December 6th at 11 a.m. To provide a quick update on what the commission has been doing so far in 2021, and also a report out on some of the items that were heard as part of the community engagement sessions.
I could be free for that. If anybody else didn't want to jump in.
I could do that too.
Right.
So I heard Commissioner Hedgewood and Commissioner Clay and Commissioner Jackson. And should Commissioner Jackson be unable to attend, is there perhaps a third alternative?
Yes, I can be the third alternative.
Great.
December 6th. What day of the week is that?
So that
would
is.
be oh, sorry.
Go ahead, John.
I was say it's a Monday. I'm sorry.
What time was it?
So it is 11 a.m.
Okay.
Great.
Great.
I'll
Well,
take the day off. I'll be available.
And just to reiterate, this is a virtual meeting or in person?
Correct. Yeah, this would be a virtual meeting.
Okay.
Then finally, two remaining items. Number one is, there any volunteers from the commission to do the next inspirational item?
I will if nobody else wants to.
Commissioner Clay, I'm putting you down for the inspirational item.
Okay.
And then my final question for the commission is looking towards December. We do have our next meeting on December 27th. And I wanted to see if any of the commissioners have any issues with that date. I know there's a lot of travels typically around this time. So I just wanted to check in and see if that was a good date for the commission.
Works for me.
I'm available.
I'll be out of the country, but I should have internet access so I can zoom in.
Okay, great.
Same, I should be available also.
I have it as the 28th. Is that why? I don't know. Why do I have that down there? It's on the 27th. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
Monday, the
I don't know.
27th, the
I don't
28th.
know why I jumped. Okay. I'm fine.
Great. Well, then that's easy. And that is the end of my report, Vice Chair Brown.
Right. So thank you very much. Great. So that should complete our agenda for tonight. And so at this point, we will adjourn the meeting.
Alrighty, great. Thank you,
Good evening,
guys.
everyone.
Wonderful.
Good night.
Good night.